Hello students, I hope you all are enjoying good health. Today we have a new tutorial. As you can see on the screen, this topic for the day is cell structure and function. So in this we have to study both the animal cell and plant cell. They will be studied in detail about their components, their function, and of course the structure, because the structures have to be drawn by you people quite clearly and nicely. So let's begin the topic and do concentrate on the various aspects of it. So these are the some of the topics that we are going to study in this particular tutorial. The chapter consists of number 1, the cell, then of course the discovery of cell that you can see on the left hand side, then the various type of shapes and the size of the cells, then the number, then basic cell structure, then we have lot many of organelles of the cell that we have to study in detail, and of course the other part that we should be knowing, difference between plant and animal cell. That is the most important part of it. So basically, as we all know by this time, that the cell word is obtained from Latin word called cella, Cella. Okay, that means small room in Latin word, and this biological unit called cell is a building block of life. And this gentleman Robert Hooke, in the year 1665, with whatever machines available in those days for viewing the structure, he just viewed it in the structure like a honeycomb. So just like a honeycomb, it looks like that, as you can see at the base here, and he called them as compartments, and these compartments are referred as cell in those days when the primitive technology was available. Now this gives you some example how the cells of our own cheek cell. This is a diagram of a human cheek cell. Okay, you have it in your textbook also. So human cheek cells, as you can see the diagram. So we have these cells bonded by cell membrane. Check out the name cell membrane. Then the dark bodies here are called the nucleus, and they are bonded by nuclear membrane. Then this whole body inside the grayish body you can see is called cytoplasm. This is a very primitive structure that gives you some idea what we are now up to study about. Now here the definition begins. So cell is the basic building block of all living organisms. So it is the, write down the word smallest. Okay, it is the smallest structural and functional unit of life. Okay, so write down that definition: smallest structural and functional unit of life. And the study of cell in science is referred as cytology, Cytology, cytology. So this is a branch of biology that deals with the study of cell and the structures. And then they say all basic chemical activities in your body, basic chemical and physiological functions such as repair, we all grow, we move, the body immunity. Then the cells do communicate, we do also communicate among ourselves, a whole digestive system, they are all carried out inside the cell. So you can see every part of our something called life processes is performed with the coordination of cells. Okay, then basically we have the three basic characteristics of cell. That is, it has a cell membrane, then there is something called genetic material that we read in detail, and then all metabolic machinery. Metabolic means sum total of activities going inside the cell. So write it down. Metabolism is of two types. One is called catabolism and other is called anabolism. Okay, these are new terms for you people. Write it down. So catabolism means to break up, and make it to smaller molecules. Anabolism is opposite of catabolism, means the simple molecules combine to form complex molecules. So both catabolism and anabolism make metabolism, or we call it a metabolic activities. So every this thing is happening within this minute structure called cell. Then the shape of the cell, it depends on the function, and the shape of the cell may change or remain same. That means there are some cells those keep on changing their shape, while the rest of them do have the same function at all. Then the cell helpful in protection have different features, and the similarity, the cells involved in circulation have different features. That means the cells, depending upon their function, they have different characteristics. As a result, now these are some of the diagram shot that you can see the various shapes of the cells. So if it is a branch stuff, then we have a nerve cell that we study in this tutorial, which help in the control and coordination of different parts of your body. Then in case of disc-like shape that you can see in the diagram here, so it is the shape of the RBC, referred as red blood cell. Then the shape can be like spindle form, as you can see, and these spindle shaped cells are narrow from ends. You can see from the end they are narrow down, and basically we have the muscle fiber which is of that particular shape. Then we have the cells, those who are flat, totally one. The skin cells are flat. So you can see depending upon the location, their function, their shapes are different. So they can be branched, they could be like disc, they could be like spindle, or they can be flat stuff. Then the cells have, as I've told you, at different sizes. So they can be as small as 0.1 micron. It is present into this mycoplasma. Write down this number. And some of the largest cell is the cell of the egg of an ostrich, that is approximately 17 cm in diameter. So 17 cm in diameter approximately. So it is the largest cell. And similarly in case of human cell, so basically we say the red blood cells are the smallest in particular, approximately 6 to 8 micrometer. Largest is the nerve cell. But in some of the book you will find the sperm cell also, which is said to be the smallest cell, but we take sperm cell with respect to its volume, okay? So that why it is less than even close to 5 micron, 4 micrometers, or 5 micrometers, because 5 micrometers approximately. If you grow further in the class, you will find that there are some cells called granule cells in cerebellum. Okay, cerebellum is the part of the brain. They are the smallest cell, approximately 4 micrometer is the size. So, but you are, these are the found in the cerebellum. Okay, the granule cells we call them, and so they are the smallest one. But for your class, if you write the red blood cell, no problem with it. And largest cell is the nerve cell, okay? And again, the size of the cell has no relation with the size of the body of an animal or a plant. The size of the cell has no relation with the body size of the organism, okay? So it depends upon the function it performs, and its various other parameters are taken into consideration. Now, these are some components that cell contains. So I have told you the outermost boundary in normal the cell is called cell membrane. Then we have something called protoplasm. So underline this number. Protoplasm is the living material, and the entire content, the whole content of cell is referred as protoplasm. So you can say it is cell membrane with cytoplasm, because everything is embedded in cytoplasm only. So basically the protoplasm is the living matter of the cell, and protoplasm has, again they say, called the two parts I have told you. The first is the cell membrane, and this cell membrane is the outermost part of the cell, It is made up of something called lipids and proteins. Underline it out. It is made up of lipids and protein. So it is very thin and delicate. So write down this terms for its note format. So it is living, thin and delicate, and it is semi-permeable. Okay, semi-permeable means it only allows the certain particles to move inside and across the cell, few molecules only. And the plasma membrane or cell membrane is porous. As a result, it allows the entry of particles in and or molecules in and out of the cell. Then these are some points that you should be knowing and must be write it down in your respective notes copies, that the function of cell membrane. Okay, so number one, it provides support as you have been told. Number two, help in the exchange of materials because they are porous, and of course the most important, gives shape to the cell. That is the most important part, shape to the cell. Then you can see the second component in case of plants. So they have additional covering out of the cell membrane. We call them cell wall, and it is thick, present only in plant cell, I have told you, and it is made up of a component called cellulose. Okay, write it down. It is made up of a component called cellulose, but in fungus, again a type of plant, it is made of a material called chitin. Pronunciation is chitin, the spelling, pronounced as chitin. Okay, chitin, it is made up of that material. And in addition to cell wall, the cell membrane is also required by the plants, as I have told you, for protection with respect to temperature, high wind speeds, atmospheric moisture. So there are lot many physical factors by which the plant has to be protected. So cell membrane do their job also. And apart from that, the function of cell wall is mentioned here. So number one, gives the mechanical support. It is only in plants. Then again, it allows the substance to pass through it. And since you know plants have definite shape, so they provide or maintain the shape of the cell. That is the cell wall. So make sure this term should be known to you in very, very clarity or clear pattern. As I have told you already, protoplasm is a living material, and as the parts are being categorized to you, the first one was the cell membrane, then is the cytoplasm part of protoplasm. So in case of cytoplasm, so it is a jelly-like substance and present between the cell membrane and nucleus. Okay, and there are some organelles that should be known to you which are in the cytoplasm. Plastids, write it down, mitochondria, vacuoles, and endoplasmic reticulum. There are other organelles also, but these are some of them which we want to study in this tutorial. Plastids, write it down carefully because the names are new to you. So plastids, mitochondria, vacuoles, and endoplasmic reticulum. So that gives you some idea that what topic we are going to study about. So in case of Golgi bodies or Golgi apparatus, it is present, it is again organelle. Okay, it is organelle present in cytoplasm. So it is present in plants and animals. Both of these both of these plant and animal cells contains Golgi bodies. Then we have something called lysosomes. So write it down. And of course the plastids. So the plastids are only present in plants. Okay, plastids are only present in plants. Now for plastids you have to have some names, some terms that you have to read and write. So first, there are three types of plastids. Write it down. There are three types of plastids. First is leucoplast. Leucoplast, it has no color, so it is colorless. Other is chromoplast, which is colorful. Chromoplast. Okay, and third, the most important could be, is chloroplast. So chloroplast is the one that is responsible to give the green color, and hence we call it a kitchen of the cell. Okay, kitchen of the plant, because it helps the plant to make food, as it contains chlorophyll. And the process by which plant make food, I hope you all know, is called photosynthesis. So write on this word, photosynthesis is the process by which plant makes their own food, okay? And photosynthesis is only occurring in the plastids called chloroplast, okay? Because chloroplast has a component called chlorophyll, which traps the light, and the process called photosynthesis is then proceeded and performed. These are some functions of plastids, write it down. So number one, as I've told you, it is helpful in photosynthesis, while the leucoplast, that is a part of plastid we have just read, store food, while the chromoplast, which is the other pigment of plastid, which is further chlorophyll, is highly colored and impart color to flowers, okay? You can see the lot many colorful flowers in and around you. So that colorful flowers or the color in the flower is responsible of chromoplast. So write down these terms for your future reference. Then the second organelle is mitochondria, and it is one of the most important organelle because it is also referred as powerhouse, because it is the one who produces energy for us. So mitochondria, so as I've told you, it is referred as the powerhouse of the cell, and you can write it down as this format. And it is a double membrane structure, it is a porous one. So the inner membrane is folded and we call it as cristae, Cristae, okay, cristae, that you can see in the diagram also. These folding membrane are referred as cristae, okay. The new name you have to just read it out because it will help you in higher classes also. And this mitochondria has its own DNA, okay. DNA, I hope the name is known to you. It is, write it down the full form if you don't know it. So DNA stand for deoxy, then R DNA deoxy nucleic acid. So we read about this DNA in nucleus also. So deoxyribonucleic acid. So mitochondria has its own DNA. You can imagine how important the structure is. Then the next one that we are going to study is vacuoles. Now I have told you they are fluid filled, and again they are present in plants and they are very large in size, okay, while in case of animal they are smaller in size. An outer membrane of plant cell is called as tonoplast, write it down, outer membrane, and is filled with a cell sap, okay. So this membrane, the outer membrane of this vacuole structure is called tonoplast here, and is filled with a sap, okay. And as a result, vacuoles are present, as I have told you, in animals also, and their function is to storage. But in animals, their size is very small, but in case of plant, the size is very big, okay. And the functions are, it provides unlike two words, turgidity and rigidity. So please check out the meaning of these words from dictionary. So turgid or turgidity and rigidity. So that gives you the structure or the term why the cells are turgid and rigid. That is the function of vacuole. And I have told you the main job is to store food, okay. Then the next structure that is again play a very important role is called endoplasmic reticulum. Write it down, endoplasmic reticulum, okay. So it is a membranous network, and it is irregular network of membrane enclosing fluid in the cavity. And you should know there are two types basically of ER is the short form for endoplasmic reticulum. So one is called rough endoplasmic reticulum, other is called smooth endoplasmic reticulum. Okay, RER is rough and SER is smooth. So we read about these terms in the higher classes. For the time being, you just know that there is some structure called endoplasmic reticulum inside the cell. Okay. Now there are some functions here, but which are not going to enter into that we will study in the higher classes. But you should know these endoplasmic reticulums main job is for synthesis of fats and lipid molecule. Okay, and of course they provide the surface for protein synthesis. So just write lipid synthesis or fat and protein synthesis. So these are some important job for endoplasmic reticulum. While the Golgi or Golgi apparatus, as we call it, they are again a membrane stacked one over the other, and again they are filled with vesicles, fluid filled vesicles. And in underline this one, normally we ask you one mark question that what we call the Golgi apparatus in plants. Okay, so in plant cell it is called as dictyosomes. Write the word. So sometime you get this question, DIC tyosomes. Okay, TYOSOME, dictyosomes. That is the Golgi bodies in plant cell referred as. Okay, now the function for these, so underline this function. So their main function is to secrete, package and dispatch. So they secrete, they pack it and dispatch all the cellular secretions, all the cellular, जो भी cell के अंदर whatever it is formed in the cell, their secretion or their secretion are secreted and packed and dispatched to the various part of the cell. Now comes the most important function of some of the membrane that you know. The one name is called lysosomes. So they contain digestive enzymes. So whatever food you consume has to be digested. So their main job, because they consist of digestive enzymes. So first component is they destroy foreign particles that enter in the cell every day due to any of the reasons. So they protect us from those agents. Then they remove the component which are worn out, means that the body or the cell won't need it. So lysosome remove it. Now this is the most important part. They act as a suicidal bag. That means they can eat up their own cell if the cell is damaged. So you can see how the body get itself protected. So if the cell is not working properly, it get damaged, then these lysosomes kill and digest the whole cell itself, and as a result we call it a suicidal bag. So these are some of the organelles in the cell. Now one of the most important and the organelle that you have to study and write a note is called nucleus. So make sure. So in case this nucleus is located in the center of the cell, and it contains, write down the word contains, or storehouse of genes that we have just studied about it. And without nucleus, you can see the cell just can't survive at all. They just can't survive. It will die off. And hence the nucleus consists of three components. First, the outermost membrane called nuclear membrane. Then inside it has a fluid called nucleoplasm. And then inside the body called nucleolus. So write down these terms. So they are known, they should be known to you completely. First is nuclear membrane, then is the fluid component in the nucleus, within the nucleus only, called nucleoplasm, and then of course nucleolus. So write down this last word, nucleolus. Okay, so this is the central body of nucleus, nucleolus. Okay, so these are the three terms under nucleus. Now we will take one by one. As we have told you, nuclear membrane is the outermost covering. It is again porous, and it allows the movement of material between the cytoplasm and the nucleus. okay, nucleus and cytoplasm, whatever material want to move inside the cell, it takes place through nuclear membrane. We also call it as nuclear envelope, so it is the same term for that. Then I have told you it has a liquid content called nucleoplasm. It is a cytoplasm of nucleus, you can call it. And then a nucleolus. So it is a small oval body which is rich in protein, and there is a new word called RNA. So write down the full form for RNA. I have told you for DNA. So RNA is nothing but ribonucleic acid. Ribonucleic acid. So protein and RNA. And the ribosomes that makes the protein occurs in nucleolus, and then it helps in the survival of all the cell, because your body is nothing but a protein molecule in different format. It will be told to you as you grow in higher classes. Then the nuclear material, that is basically must be clear about. It is made up of DNA, and the part of DNA is called genes, and genes are the hereditary vehicles. Matlab, they carry the characters of the parents to the offspring or young ones. So whatever feature you have in your body that you are getting are from your parents, and that feature came to your body through genes, okay, which is a part of DNA. So you can imagine how complex the nucleus is. Then the new word that you are dealing with now, because everything that we have read it is referred as chromosomes. So that is genes and the DNA, they are basically present in the form or in chromosomes. So the chromosomes are the ribbon-like structure made up of DNA and proteins, and it consists of a component called genes. You should know the genes are the hereditary materials which we passed in the form of DNA molecule and which are present in the chromosomes. So when the baby is born, the baby gets feature from father as well as mother. So these features called genetic materials from father and mother come from the genes, okay, and that's why this feature then pass on from generation to generation. So you must know this component called nuclear material, very important. Then we have some functions of nucleus. Write it down. Number one, it regulates cell cycle, because as the cell is born, it lives and cell dies off. So as a result, I have told you some in the last tutorial, after every 11 years your body get a complete set of new cells, okay, complete set of new cells. Write it down. So whatever cell you have got at the time of the birth from mama's body, now after 11 years, after every 11 years you can say so, the whole body cell get rejuvenated and recreated, you can call it. So after every 11 years your body is a new body with the new cells. You can see how the body works. So that cell cycle regulation is the function of nucleus. Will it control metabolic activities that I have told you about catabolism and anabolism? Then I have told you it contains genes, so that help in the transmission of characters from parents to the offspring. So these are the function of nucleus in particular. Write it down and you have to learn them. Now then comes the most important part here as we move in tutorial, that what is the difference between plant and animal cell. So I have told you plant cell have cell wall which is made up of cellulose, while animal cell has plasma membrane, so they won't have cell wall. Number two, I have told you plant cell contain plastids that we have just studied about, while plastids are absent in animals. So write it down for your reference. Then in case of plant cell, they have very large vacuoles. As a result, the nucleus is at the side. While in case of animal cells, so there are lot many of small vacuoles, okay. So they have the vacuoles but the size is small. Then in case of plant cell, they won't have this new structure called centrosome and lysosomes. So write down, this is a new term for you. Centrosome and lysosomes are not present in plant cell. So they are only present in animal cell. So their function and all these things you will read in higher classes, some of them in particular. So these are some of the main points of differences regarding plant cell and animal cell. Now this pic you already have seen in the starting of video tutorial. So I will prefer that you pause the video and draw these diagrams, so that give you a very good structure of a plant cell. All components of plant cell is quite well mentioned here, you can see and draw, and I will prefer draw the colorful diagram because this could be a part of your assignment work also. So this is the plant cell, you can see it has a cell wall at the top, so that give it a definite shape, and you can see the size of the vacuole, it's so big here. That's why the nucleus is at the side in case of plant cells. So while in case of animal cell, if you see the structure, there you can see they won't have any outermost layer like cell wall as plants have. So they only have a cell membrane, and you can see the nucleus is approximately in the center, and then you can see the structure called endoplasmic reticulum that I have told you. Then lysosome I have told you just now. Then we have a structure called centrioles, which I have just told you that we study in higher classes. Then mitochondria and Golgi apparatus. So I again repeat, keep pause this video and draw this diagram for the perfection, colorfulness, so it will help you to retain it. And this is the diagram in your textbook that I have told you have to draw it. So use the diagram of a nerve cell, we call it a nerve cell or neuron, or just write down the nerve cell that is drawn in your book in particular. So it has two parts. First part is the one that holds this central part, we call it cyton, and this long tail is called axon. Okay, so you should know how to pronounce the name, cyton and axon. Okay, and these, the hair like growth is called dendrites. In the center it has a nucleus. In the cell body I already have told is called cyton. Okay, other structures we will study when we grow in higher classes. And this whole long tail is called axon. It is bounded by a layer you can see called myelin sheath. Underline the word myelin sheath. And in myelin sheath, it is again consisting of, you can see small compartments, 1, 2, 3, 4 like that. So these small compartment or cells are called Schwann cell. Schwann is the name of the scientist. So SCHWANN, Schwann cell. Okay, inside Schwann cell you can again find a Schwann nucleus. This is called the Schwann nucleus, you can write if you want. So Schwann nucleus or simple nucleus you can write, but won't confuse this nucleus with the main nucleus here. Okay, that's why I write the word Schwann nucleus for that. And then you can see between these cells there is a tiny gap. Okay, there is a tiny gap in between. These tiny gaps are referred as nodes of Ranvier. Write it down, node or nodes of Ranvier, these tiny gaps. Okay, they are mentioned in the diagram, check it out. So nodes of Ranvier, and ultimately in the end they have axon terminal. Axon terminal. So this is the diagram of the nerve cell or neuron, very important for the examination point of view. So label it properly by pausing the video so that you understand the diagram, and then of course draw it in perfect sense. Then these are the two examples of the last topic approximately, called the prokaryotic cell and eukaryotic cells. Okay, you can see in prokaryotic cell they won't have a well defined nucleus, so we have a region called nucleoid, while in eukaryotic they have a well developed nucleus region that we have just studied out. So now we will take these differences between eukaryotic cells and prokaryotic cells. So for your understanding, you can also draw the diagram of prokaryotic cell for your better understanding. While the animal cell and the plant cell is referred as eukaryotic cells, we already have seen the diagram. So these are some of the differences between eukaryotic and prokaryotic cells. The eukaryotic cells have membrane bound organelles. Prokaryotes they won't have membrane bound organelles. Then nucleus of the cell has a nuclear membrane in case of eukaryotes, while nucleus is not bonded by nuclear membrane in case of the prokaryotes. Examples are there. For eukaryotes, we have all higher plant and animal cell, while for prokaryotes, all the bacterium and blue-green algae are the examples for it. So these are some of the difference between eukaryotes and prokaryotes. And last, you can see the cell that you read about is being governed under certain principles called cell theory. So the name that you just read about, Scavan, in the nerve cell diagram, the same scientist, and one more is called Scaledine. So you should know the name. So Scaledine Scavan proposed this cell theory, and according to cell theory, cells are the smallest basic structural and functional unit of life that I have told in the starting of the chapter. So it is the smallest structural and functional unit of life is the first component of cell theory. And then all living cells are made up of one or more cells. So all living cells are made up of either one or more than one cells. So these are the components of the cell theory given by Scaledine and Scavan. So I again request and repeat, please read and see the tutorial and write down the notes and make down your own notes, draw diagrams, study the concept, so that this chapter called cytology get in the system and understand it better. So make sure that once you read it, make down the notes and then learn them properly. Then this is all for the tutorial. Take care. Bye.